Leider.
You see, my problem is this. I'm a Swede living in Germany, and Germans take football very seriously. 2 years ago, when I played old European Championship video games, I made the fatal mistake of losing to England on penalties with Germany. To my friends, this was treason. So for the past 2 years, I've lived in fear because I knew this day would come. I knew the 2026 World Cup in the USA, Mexico and Canada would eventually arrive. And with it, another chance to disappoint an entire nation that I wasn't even born into.
Wir schreien laut, wie schön,
I need to go back and ask an important question. A question of historical significance that may decide whether I spend this summer in peace or in a shallow grave with German Schlager playing on loop. What was the first official World Cup game? Turns out it was World Cup Carnival. Sounds festive. A game based on the 1986 tournament in Mexico that came out on several home computers. Now I have no history with any of those machines, which is always a comforting start. I'll be playing the Commodore 64 version on an emulator. This time I have to win the World Cup with Germany. I have to. I'll be fine.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
For a game I'd never heard of, World Cup Carnival has a surprisingly juicy backstory. Developer Arctic Computing basically took their earlier game World Cup Football from 1984, slapped an official FIFA World Cup license on top of it, and sent it back out into the world like nobody would notice. People noticed. Consumers were furious, loads of copies were returned to stores, and the reviews were absolutely savage. As if that wasn't bad enough, the developers then got sued because they had already sold off the copyrights to World Cup Football to keep the company alive. So in the end, they had to hand over all sales from World Cup Carnival, which helped bankrupt them in the process. So really, there's only one question left. Was it worth it? Let's check it out. Oh wow, doesn't that title music just fill you with World Cup fever? So before the big tournament begins, the game lets you practice with 3 different modes. First up, ball control. Right. What's he doing? Am I supposed to shoot at the goal? No? Oh, he's juggling. That's the minigame. Juggling. Weird. Anyway, I got 16 and don't see myself pushing much further than that, so let's move on to penalties. They're fine. The player's weirdly delighted with himself, but mechanically, this is probably the closest the game gets to functioning. Whether you're shooting or playing as the keeper, it's alright for what it is. Very basic and stiff, but at least it resembles football. Enough warm-up nonsense, let's start the tournament.
Argentinien? Ich schwöre, ich habe Argentinien nicht nur genommen, weil sie 86 das echte Turnier gewonnen haben. Gegen Deutschland.
So the match begins and the music keeps playing.
Sag mal, was ist das hier eigentlich für eine Scheißmusik?
What is this? The opponent just runs around aimlessly. He doesn't pass or shoot. I can't tackle him properly. Oh wow, finally a shot. Nice job there, goalie. I genuinely cannot get the ball. This is a disaster. Nothing works. The AI appears to have no idea what football is, and to be fair, neither do I anymore. The crowd seems to be having a nice time. Good for them. Damn, Italy scored. At least I get the ball now. And it's gone. I don't even know what to say. This might be the worst football game I've ever played. The controls are dreadful, the AI is simply brain dead, and during kickoff, I can literally just run off and let the timer go down. Don't mind me, lads. Just fleeing the crushing weight of expectation. Apparently, there's no group stage in this game either. You've gotta be kidding me. Germany lost to England in the final?
Freunde, ihr müsst das mal so sehen. Das war ich nicht. Ich kann da nichts für. Dieses Spiel ist viel zu schlecht, um ernsthaft gespielt zu werden. Ich beantrage hiermit, dass World Cup Carnival für ungültig erklärt wird und ich ohne Strafe zum nächsten Spiel wechseln darf.
Nach sorgfältiger Prüfung haben wir uns dazu entschieden, dem Antrag stattzugeben. Allerdings unter der Voraussetzung, dass Westdeutschland Weltmeister wird. Sonst ist mit willkürlichen Strafen zu rechnen.
No pressure, right?
Publisher US Gold also wanted the license for the next tournament in 1990, but thankfully that didn't happen. It didn't stop them from throwing out a game called Italy 1990 anyway, which I think is where I'll politely decline and keep walking. I'm sticking to the official license stuff here. From this point on though, the naming gets a bit confusing. On home computers, Virgin Mastertronic released a game called World Cup Soccer Italia 90. In Europe, the Sega Master System got World Cup Italia 90. The Mega Drive got World Cup Italia 90 as well, which in North America was known as World Championship Soccer, and once the license ran out, it got renamed yet again to Sega Soccer.
And this is the version I grew up with.
The Mega Drive game was my very first football experience, and I've got fond memories of playing it with my dad back in the day. I even reviewed it during the first run of my show in 2010, and to this day, it's probably my favorite video from that whole era. Unfortunately, it also marks the beginning of a long and deeply humiliating tradition. Me playing as Germany, losing to England on penalties. So now after all these years, it's finally time to set things right and go back to my very first football game. Time to redeem myself.
Warum nimmt ihr das?
Now that's what I call music. This game keeps things nice and simple. World Cup and Test Match. Since I already know my way around it, I'm going straight into the World Cup. First you get this map where you can pick your team, and you know a football game is old when the lineup includes the USSR and freaking West Germany. Then you put your squad together. I have no idea whether those numbers make a difference, but naturally I'm picking the players with the highest ones. That just feels responsible. Sadly, you don't get the real groups from the actual 1990 tournament, which is a bit of a shame. West Germany won their third World Cup trophy that year, which puts extra pressure on me. On the pitch, the game is played from a top-down perspective and the field of view is extremely limited. There's a radar on the right, but I wouldn't call it helpful. What? A goal already?
Ruhig bleiben.
Yeah, that's because I suddenly found myself controlling the goalkeeper and I didn't expect it at all. When you've got the ball, you can shoot, do a high pass or a ground pass, and you'll quickly notice that I almost always go for the high pass because the ground pass is practically useless. You cover more ground that way, and more often than not, the ball actually reaches a teammate. By double tapping buttons, you can do a bit more like headers. And would you look at that? My first goal of the day. The best thing about scoring is that weird voice yelling, which never stops being funny to me. I drew against the USA, but in the match against Spain, I was back in my groove. Three goals, all with the same tactic, because why fix what barely works? The final group match against Mexico was boring as hell. Nothing happened, and that's when I realized just how long these matches are. Each one lasts about 12 minutes, which feels like an eternity in a game like this. And you can't shorten them because there's no options menu. Splendid. I made West Germany group winner, so it was on to the round of 16 against South Korea. And of course, if I win that one, there's a chance I'd face England next. The football gods really do have a favorite joke. One thing I've always found a little odd is that on goal kicks or corners, the game cuts to this still image, and then once you press a button, you get a tiny animation. It's pretty much the only break you get from the music. Throw-ins don't get that treatment, because they're beneath the game's cinematic ambitions. Ooh, the goalie almost had it. Another 3-0 victory, and you've gotta be kidding me. Quarterfinal against England. It's a curse. Why always England? Can't we just be friends? Why must we do this every single time?
Verkack es bloß nicht gegen England.
Du hast einen Job, vergiss das nicht.
Ich klatsch dich so weg, wenn du gegen England verlierst. Das glaubst du gar nicht.
One thing that makes the game feel much more arcadey than sim-like is that there are no fouls whatsoever. You can slide tackle people all day long. The referee doesn't care in the slightest.
Ich werde England zerstören, Freunde. Ich sag's, wie es ist. Das wird schon, Freunde. Das wird schon. Guck, alles ganz entspannt. Muss doch spannend bleiben, oder? Habt ihr jemals an mir gezweifelt?
Ja, schon.
Ja, auf jeden Fall haben wir an dir gezweifelt.
Also ziemlich hart, tatsächlich.
Im Prinzip immer.
I beat the curse. A proper win against England at last. Surely nothing can go wrong now. In the semi-final, I face Argentina, who, by the way, were the actual finalists in the real tournament. And this one turns out to be really close. It's almost over, the score is 2-2, and then... No!
So ein Lappen, ey.
Er hat's verkackt.
I've only got 2 minutes left. Come on, come on. Yes! Yes! I can't believe it! 3-3!
Boah, nicht schlecht.
Das ist doch das deutscheste Lob, was du mir geben konntest, oder? Nicht schlecht? Das war mega geil!
And now it's penalties. These play out exactly the way you'd expect. The ball sounds like it's made of hard plastic. Every shot seems to go in. Every shot counts.
Mit so viel Druck könnte ich ja nicht umgehen.
Ja, kann ihm echt fast leid tun, der Bruder.
Scored. Yeah! Goalie MVP.
Auf deutsche Keeper ist noch Verlass.
So while I play the final against Brazil, let's wrap this up. World Cup Italia 90 is by no means a good game. It's a very basic, very stiff early Mega Drive title that can be fun in short bursts. But playing through an entire World Cup takes around an hour and a half, and the gameplay just isn't strong enough to carry that much time. In Germany, we'd call this Standfußball. I barely move, I just spam high passes and hope a header turns into a goal. What I do enjoy is that it's kind of violent, and those shouts have that special kind of charm. The best part, without question, is the music. I like every single track here, and you know I'm a sucker for the Mega Drive sound chip. The problem is that there are only 3 songs during matches, and even decent tunes start to wear thin when you hear them over and over again. I have a soft spot for it because of nostalgia, but I probably won't be coming back to it anytime soon.
3-0 gegen Brasilien. Westdeutschland ist Weltmeister.
Das war das Schönste, was ich je gesehen habe.
Wir haben immer an dich geglaubt.
Boah, Leute, ich kann's selbst kaum glauben, ey.
Herr Bundespräsident.
Ehrendeutscher.
Einer von uns. 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 Einer von uns.
Weltmeister, Weltmeister, Deutschland holt den Pokal. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, heute zählt nur das eine Mal. Im Mega Drive Licht liegt der Rasen vor uns. Italia 90 ruft und ich bin schon ganz wach. Der Controller in der Hand und der Abend wird ein Feuer. Wir ziehen ins Turnier mit Herz und mit Verstand. Ecke kommt, wir stehen bereit. Der Torschrei wächst in der Zeit. Deutschland, hörst du das? Jetzt wird Geschichte gemacht. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, wir ziehen bis ins Finale. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, Deutschland bleibt für immer genial.
Schwedenjäger.
Man, I'm so sick of playing as Germany for these weirdos. I need to flee the country. But where should I go? Wait a minute. Yes, of course.
So since this game inspired me to fly to the US, I might as well play that one too, without a crazy German audience, in my hotel room at the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. This is World Cup USA 94, developed by Tiertex and published by US Gold, which is already enough to make me slightly uneasy. It was released for a whole bunch of systems and was the last official World Cup game before Electronic Arts took over the tournament license. I happen to own the Mega Drive version, but I've got no history with this one at all. In fact, I booted it up once about 3 years ago, saw the menu and wanted no part of it. I mean, sure, the game greets you with a friendly dog, but then it throws this fever dream of a menu at you and any sense of safety is gone. What in the ever-loving mother of God is this? What is it with tournament-based football games and menus designed by people who fear words? This is Champions of Europe all over again. So what am I looking at here? Wind? Radar? Speed? I need a manual. Sadly, my copy didn't come with one, so once again, the internet had to rescue me. The manual does try its best to explain this mess. I have one question though. What's wrong with just writing things down? Naturally, I started with training. There's a decent selection of teams here, including some that didn't even qualify. So I pick Sweden, type in my name and then... What? Even more images? You click one mysterious picture and it responds by giving you 8 more. It's more sophisticated than anything else we've seen in this video so far, but with old football games, I always end up asking the same question. Do you even feel that sophistication once the match starts? Or is it just clutter with ambition? So even though I picked Sweden, I somehow ended up playing as Greece, which was a promising start. At least the camera is pulled back a bit more than in Italia 90, so I can actually see what's going on. That would help more if I had any idea what I was doing. You can also practice penalties, and this part looks pretty decent. There's a hovering arrow above the goal, and you know the rest. I still haven't figured out how long I'm supposed to hold the button or whether the D-pad even matters here. I'm past learning and entering the acceptance stage. So screw it, let's just start the damn tournament. One thing I'll give it right away is that it uses the groups from the real 1994 World Cup, although you can switch teams around if you want to rewrite history a bit. There's also a password system so you can continue later, which I always appreciate in a game like this. Once the tournament begins, the game insists on showing you every single match, even when it's just CPU versus CPU. You can either click your way through all of them or skip ahead to your own team like a sane person. I'm also sticking with the standard settings because the last thing I need right now is to spend 20 minutes adjusting options in a menu that looks like it was designed by a committee of cryptographers. Of course I'm playing as Sweden, and 1994 was a special year for my country because we finished 3rd. For us, that was huge. I was too young to remember any of the tournament itself, but a few years later my dad had this VHS tape that documented Sweden's whole run to the bronze medal, and I watched that thing so many times. He'd tell me stories about that summer too, like staying up in the middle of the night to watch Sweden beat Romania. So even though I didn't experience those matches firsthand, there's still a lot of nostalgia tied to this World Cup for me. It feels like one of those football memories you inherit. The matches begin with a coin toss. Sure, why not? My first impression is mixed. On one hand, I've got a lot more control over what I'm doing. The gameplay is faster and passing is useful. But tell me this, why are my opponents so unbelievably angry? They slide into my players every few seconds. I'm not exaggerating, half the match is just the referee blowing his whistle because somebody has committed another foul. I'm not much better either. About 9 out of 10 times I go for a slide tackle, it ends the exact same way. Foul. So you get yellow cards and red cards flying around left and right, and after a while it just becomes absurd. I could barely keep hold of the ball and Cameroon ended up scoring 4 goals against me. So no, this wasn't the start I was hoping for. At least the matches are only 6 minutes long this time, which is a mercy. In the second match against Russia, I tried to rely less on slide tackles, which at least allowed the game to breathe a little. I still couldn't score from open play and only got one through a penalty, but I'll take the 1-1 draw. That means I have to beat Brazil or I'm out. Goal kicks, free kicks and corners work quite well, I think. You get this arc that lets you aim the ball and... my first... Now we're talking. And as fate would have it, I scored 3 goals from free kicks. So it seems there's an upside to being fouled every 10 seconds. Round of 16. against Germany. Seriously? They'll never find out anyway, so who cares, right? Of course, one of the players is called Krieg, which is the German word for war, just in case you didn't know. Fitting name, because this match feels like a war. At least by now I'd gotten better at taking the ball away from the opponent, so I managed not to concede. My only goal came from a penalty, but in a match like this, I really don't care how it goes in. If only I knew what was waiting for me next. Quarterfinal against Italy. 0-0 after 90 minutes, and even in the penalty shootout, the players seemed deeply opposed to the idea of scoring. Nobody could finish anything until Lundberg over here decided to ignore the general mood and put one away anyway. This match was dreadful because the AI went completely feral. 23 free kicks, 7 yellow cards and 2 red cards. They should be banned from international football permanently. Then it was on to the semi-final against Argentina. It would be nice to score a normal goal for once instead of relying on set pieces and penalties. Jesus, that came out of nowhere. Penalty for me. Good. Oh, come on, man. Free kick. Nice. Maybe this is the moment. Yes! My first proper goal from open play. And that joy lasted about 3 seconds. It ended 3-3 and once again we were off to penalties. As usual, nobody seemed particularly interested in scoring, but this time luck wasn't on my side. My dream of becoming a Swedish world champion went up in smoke. Still, I could at least do history justice and play for the bronze medal against Bolivia. And it was only now that I finally figured out how to score reliably. You just shoot straight along the far edge of the goal and the keeper has no chance. Good to know with one match left. So while I absolutely demolished Bolivia, let's wrap this one up. World Cup USA 94 is not the worst football game I've ever played. It's miles better than World Cup Carnival and Champions of Europe. After all, it's on a much more powerful system and that definitely helps. The gameplay is fluid, the shots have some weight to them, and once you settle into it, you can work around a few of the problems. My biggest issue is easily the AI. I don't think I've ever played a football game where the computer was this committed to breaking my players' legs. My team got injured constantly, and whenever someone gets sent off or limps off the pitch, the game makes you sit there and watch it happen. Why can't I just skip that? The audio is alright. There are no bizarre voices this time, but the background noise sometimes sounds less like a stadium and more like rush hour traffic. The menu music is decent enough, but next to Italia 90, it doesn't stand a chance. So which of those two games is better? Honestly, that's hard to say. I probably haven't played USA 94 enough to judge it completely fairly, but I'd rather go back to Italia 90 because that game doesn't interrupt you every 5 seconds and it doesn't greet you with a menu that feels like an IQ test. In the end, I won 6-0. Sweden got the bronze medal and balance was restored, just like it should be. Holland won the tournament? Yeah, sure. Why the sad face? I'm perfectly happy with third place. Whatever, let's check out the casino.
Du kommst jetzt mit.
But how? How is this possible? How did he find me?
Ja, und dann bin ich Dritter geworden.
Aber schon mal Deutschland, ne?
Schweden?
Das heißt also, Deutschland ist Weltmeister geworden.
Die habe ich im Achtelfinale schon rausgekegelt.
Was bist du denn für ein Ehrendeutscher?
So ein Verräter hole ich zurück in unser Land.
Also ich habe immer schon gesagt, dass das kein Ehrendeutscher ist.
Herr Bundespräsident.
Spielt den Schlager.
Und wenn der Abend leuchtet, sehen wir unsere Farben wehen. Aus dem Spiel wird Stolz und aus dem Stolz wird Ruhm. Ein letzter Angriff, ein letzter Schuss und die Nacht zählt kurz den Atem. Dann fällt Gott ins Tor und niemand hält uns auf. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, Deutschland! Deutschland holt den Pokal. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, heute zählt nur das eine Mal. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, wir ziehen bis ins Finale. Weltmeister, Weltmeister, Deutschland bleibt für immer genial.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 7 of season 6. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. You can also support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you like. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.